Thank you so much, Nico. Good after lunch, everyone. Are we penguins yet? Okay. Thank you so much. I would like to extend my gratitude to organizers for having me today. As introduced, my name is Ngosa Kulula. I am a Young Women's Leadership Hub member under the Education Plus initiative. This is an initiative that uses a completion of secondary education as a strategic entry point for the prevention of new HIV infections amongst adolescent girls and young women in sub-Saharan Africa. And as you can see on the PowerPoint there, those are some of the young women that we work with in the Education Plus initiative. Today I'll be sharing a little bit on the lived experiences of adolescents and young people in relation to the unmet needs in the HIV and SRHR spaces. Perfect. I would like to declare that I have no conflict of interest, except maybe a strong bias towards making sure adolescents and young people have the best access to HIV prevention and SRHR services. But I think we can all agree that that's a conflict we're all happy to have. So I will proceed. To start off, I would like to start by sharing a story, speaking from personal experiences, a story of a young girl who has eventually become a friend from Zambia, an adolescent girl that was born from a positive mother, but through the necessary interventions, mother-to-child transmission was prevented and she was eventually born negative. However, through the vulnerabilities and risks that young girls and adolescent girls face in sub-Saharan Africa, she ended up getting infected with HIV. And this is just to highlight that there is need for us to sustain the investments that we make. Investments were made in line with preventing mother-to-child transmission, but however, because of the lack of the necessary information that she needed to make informed decisions to protect herself and make healthy, safe decisions around her sexual endeavors, she ended up infected with HIV. So when it comes to achieving epidemic control, is this possible by 2030? We have seen that we have made significant advances in the HIV prevention and treatment space, but we must face the reality that we are far from achieving epidemic control, especially when it comes to adolescents. Adolescents still make up 11% of new HIV infections in East and Southern Africa, and most of this is between the ages of 0 to 14 years. And these are statistics that have been emphasized over and over in the conversations that we've had through the morning sessions. We also know that 27% of all new HIV infections in East and Southern Africa are amongst adolescent girls. And as previous speakers spoke to in the morning, young women are 3 times more likely to acquire HIV than their male counterparts, owing to the immense vulnerabilities that they face. We also have a group that is often left out in conversations, which is key populations, and I highlight the group because young women are not a homogeneous group. There are intersections that still lie between key populations and young women as well, and approximately 1 in 4 of new infections in East and Southern Africa are among key populations and their sexual partners, and access to treatment across key populations is less than the average population living with HIV. So what are the barriers that still exist? What are the barriers that still facilitate the unmet needs of young people and adolescents in HIV and SRHR? So barriers such as punitive laws that criminalize key populations, for example, discrimination and violence should be stopped to ensure that access to treatment and prevention is for all and is equitable for all. There are also barriers to care such as stigma and discrimination which need to be lifted. We do have a lot of youth-friendly spaces or adolescent-friendly spaces. However, internalized biases by healthcare workers that are found in these places reduces the likelihood of young people seeking support or services in these facilities. So we really have to address stigma and discrimination. There's also a critical shortfall in funding for HIV response for low and middle income countries. This has been based off the premise that we are attaining epidemic control, but once we get into these specific groups, adolescent girls, key populations, we see that infections are still on the rise, and we still need funding and resources for middle and low-income countries. So what should be the priorities for adolescents? We have made immense progress when it comes to prevention of mother-to-child transmission through different intervention programs. However, when we look at the age group 0 to 14, if we have made immense success and progress when it comes to mother-to-child transmission, that means a huge amount of the infections that we're seeing amongst adolescents is through sexual violence. And therefore, we have to address sexual violence through a justice-based approach. What are we doing to the people who are perpetrators of sexual violence against adolescents and young women for those infections to still be on the rise? We also have to address gender inequality and poverty, the harmful gender norms and cultural norms that we still perpetuate that increase the vulnerability of adolescent girls and young women, and poverty. We've heard so many stories of young girls exchanging sex for biscuits, for something as little as biscuits, just to get by. And so we still have to address the root causes of why the infections are increasing when it comes to adolescent girls and young women, and poverty is hugely an underlying factor. Alongside the focus or targeted areas for adolescent girls, we also have to focus on comprehensive quality healthcare packages for adolescents and young people, such as comprehensive services, access to a range of contraceptive methods, ensuring that young people have options and they are well informed of their options, education on reproductive choices, ensuring that we're also promoting health-seeking behaviors by promoting HIV testing and treatment, ensuring that there's availability of antiretroviral treatment and therapy, integrating counseling services. I think this was something that was also discussed in the previous session, making sure that we're integrating mental health support and relationship and sexual health counseling, promoting positive relationships, and education programs through comprehensive sex education and information on rights and health. So I just want to highlight that young people are not just standing by the sidelines. Young people are taking actions and holding the line when it comes to sexual reproductive health and HIV, not only for themselves, but for adolescents as well. An example of such is the United Movement. And the United Movement focuses on our crisis, which is HIV and SRH, rights of adolescents and young people continue to not be met. So the United Movement is led by young people and youth-led networks advocating for HIV and SRH in one voice through enhancing capacities, collaborating and leveling up in joint advocacy. We aim to accelerate youth-led responses towards HIV and SRH commitments and collectively address the persisting challenges. So what are our key advocacy areas as the United Movement? So as I earlier alluded to the barriers that continue to facilitate the unmet needs of young people and adolescents in SRHR and HIV, our key advocacy areas are laws, policies that, laws and their policies that implement, laws and policies and their implementation and funding for their implementation, access to quality services, healthcare packages for adolescents and young people, meaningful youth voice and youth leadership as proven by the movement itself, which is youth-led, gender and cultural norms, gender identity and expression, economic empowerment, information skills, and empowerment, as this directly relates to addressing poverty, which is a key underlying issues for the increase in HIV infections that we continue to see amongst adolescents and young women. So the United Movement continues to celebrate wins, ensuring that young people are demanding and delivering in terms of HIV and SRHR. We have seen the United Movement promoting young people's voices in spaces such as UNGA. I think just the other week, we had young people who were at the pre-SADC National Aid Council's directors meeting, where they were also submitting their voices around what people need, what young people need and want to see in terms of policies and implementation in their respective countries across the SADC region. So the United Movement continues to prove that young people can, and that we need to trust young people to speak on issues that affect them. We also heard earlier on how we should include adolescents as well, ensuring that their voices are heard and that meaningful participation is promoted across all areas when it comes to addressing SRHR and HIV. Pardon us, technology. Oh, great. Yeah, so that's just a display of young members of the United Movement at different platforms, just raising their voices in line with their needs and demands when it comes to sexual reproductive health and HIV. So it's just young people in different spaces. We had participation in the Global Forum for Adolescents. We have the Adolescents Conference from last year, Women Deliver, ICASA, and different spaces where young people's voices should be promoted when it comes to promoting their agency around HIV and ensuring that lived experiences are taken into account all through. Okay, I don't think it likes me. Yes. So why should we invest in adolescent HIV prevention? Adolescent HIV prevention brings triple dividends, and these benefits extend beyond immediate health outcomes, creating long-term impacts for individuals, communities, and entire societies. These triple dividends are around improved health for adolescents themselves, improved well-being, and we know that healthy adolescents can then go ahead and be healthy learners and eventually contribute to their countries and be responsible citizens. And this therefore leads to an intergenerational impact where we have healthy adults that can also contribute to their countries and be positive influences on the societies that they belong to. So we should definitely invest in adolescent HIV prevention if we are to attain epidemic control by 2030. Thank you so much.